It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Great to have you in studio today. We're going to be talking with Sedona Fire Chief Chris Kazian. We're going to be talking about the slide fire and kind of the issues in Oak Creek Canyon, the things that are taking place up there, and the safety precautions. We'll talk more about this little stack of papers I have in front of me. I got a chance to drive through the canyon this weekend on Saturday. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Let me tell you my experience first.
Okay.
My wife and I were going to visit my daughter in the canyon. She just recently moved there, and we were coming down from the north end of the scenic overlook, and there's U.S. Forest Service and Coconino County Sheriff's Office staged there stopping all traffic, and we were handed this packet of material, and it's got some Red Cross information, it's got flash flood information on there, and just information in general about Oak Creek Canyon and the slide fire and what took place there. So I thought, well, that's really neat for anybody who doesn't know what happened in Oak Creek Canyon. They've got all this information in front of them. As I drove through the canyon, it's really interesting to notice that you couldn't see a lot of the burn area, especially when you got down at the bottom of the switchbacks. It seemed almost like nothing happened here.
Yeah,
have you heard that from other people too?
Yeah, it's quite a bit of, especially coming from the north, coming down, you don't see as much versus when you come from the south and go up right by Slide Rock, you get some pretty burned, scarred areas that you see. That's pretty prevalent and raises your attention quickly. But coming in from the north, you're right, you see quite a bit of green and where the burn area was and where it got up on top and worked its way on the top. And coming from there, you're right, you don't see a lot. Yeah,
the switchbacks, you know, almost at the bottom of the switchbacks is the Sterling Springs, where Game and Fish has the hatchery there. And Vic Morfin from Cocoa Forest had been in here before and told us that it burnt pretty good right up that canyon there, the Sterling Springs Canyon. And so you could see that, but there's still, I recall there being a lot of dead pine trees on those hillsides right there, but there's still some green there too. So I thought, well, that doesn't look too bad. But I had to keep reminding myself that this fire climbed up the canyon walls and then ran across the top above it.
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
And then all along the edge of the canyon as well. So you could see sort of through the forest from here to there, you could see the scarred trees and stuff in the background across the creek.
Correct.
Quite a ways away from 89A.
Yes.
And then when you hit Slide Rock, that's where you could really, the halfway picnic area, you could see that it was just devastated by the fire.
There's a very high intensity burn there. That's where the started area was. The start of the fire was in the north end of Slide Rock State Park, south end of halfway campground. And so that is where it started. That did where all the wind and it kind of took off right when we first arrived on scene and was really moving.
It was a red flag day that too, wasn't it?
It was a red flag day that day. So so that part did get burned, and then just the slope and the topography in that area, the vegetation that happened to be in that area just sure seemed to take to the burn quite a bit, and a high intensity burn in that area. A lot of that western slope aspect area all along that, going all the way up to the top, did have some burn of moderate to high severity, and that's what our concern really is that moderate to high severe burn area that just doesn't work real well with it. It becomes hydrophobic. And so that means when it rains, that normally where there was a canopy that would collect all that water, brush that would grab it, the soil that would grab and absorb it, there's nothing there left to grab it. So that means more water hits the deck, and then having this, it's like a waxy-like material that gets formed with the ash and the burn material. So it becomes hydrophobic, and so that means the water is going to rush off of it and not get absorbed into the ground like it normally would have done prior to the fire.
Now, do we need rain to wash that layer off, or is it something that'll eventually just kind of break down in time, and then the rain will be able to soak through that?
Well, now you got me a little bit on that.
Yeah,
that's an ologist question, a geologist or hydrologist.
Right. That's.
But the reality is that the burn area itself we will get rain on it. We've gotten rain this last, starting a couple of days ago, Friday or so. We got our first rain. Friday night, I think, is when we had our first event.
Yeah.
And so it's going to rain in there. It'd be great if time took its way and it could rebuild itself back up. But to rebuild it, it needs water, and there's just probably a whole geological reason why it all happens. So rain will happen in that area. There will be a flushing of that material and debris down. We've already seen quite a bit of that. If you were there on Saturday, You probably got to see the creek when it was still in fairly clean looking.
It was. That's another thing that really misled me too, because as I drove down, my wife was driving, and because I wanted to be able to look, and when I looked at the creek, I thought, well, no, I've fished this creek, and I could see to the bottom of the water there. So there's no muck flowing through here or anything. But
not so much anymore. I'm glad that your wife was driving and you were paying such close attention to the canyon. I like safety.
Yes, safety first.
Safety first. So yes, we had. So that was Friday night. We had a warning. The sirens were activated. On Saturday, we might have something late afternoon, but you were telling me about it. I don't recall that necessarily, but I'm sure it happened.
A little closure. There was a closure on 89 because there was some debris on the roadway.
Oh, yes. And then Sunday, we had about 1 o'clock. We had a mudslide, rock slide, and that really actually pushed a lot of that. Not a lot. There's a lot more to come, but started moving the creek into ash and dirt and debris. And so the creek is running black now, pretty much.
Which will eventually wind up down here in the Verde Valley. Now, are there any certain sections along Oak Creek where you guys have seen maybe more activity than others, or is it just kind of hit and miss right now?
Well, interesting thing about this, I think we were at a meeting yesterday, and someone described that one of the police, Coconino County sheriffs, just said we're kind of at a game that we don't know which sport it is, and we're not sure which rules we're supposed to follow. So the challenge is that it could rain. Let's just say it rains 1 inch in the burn area. Right. Does it burn 1 inch and move across, in a certain direction that just kind of drops some water along the way? Does it sit up over the top? Like yesterday, they had about a 3-inch rain, I believe, out in Belmont, that just kind of sat over Belmont area yesterday. And if that would have sat up over the burn area and just sat over, it would have been devastating. 3 inches of rain in a very concentrated area over a short amount of time. We talked about with the meteorologist, if it rains going from the bottom of a drainage, a canyon, and works its way up, or if it works its way down, same amount of rain, working its way down will actually be very much more devastating than a 1 inch rain as works its way up. So there's so many, because now it's raining on itself as it's coming down. So there's so many rules and so many different particulars. I believe there's 28 drainages or canyons, not including West Fork or Sterling. Oh, okay. So there's 28 areas that have potential to collect debris, rain, and flow into different areas that could create problems. Gotcha. And depending on what happens, we have such a varied outcome.
So again, as I drive through the canyon and I see not much going on, and my wife even and I say to herself, doesn't look that bad, but we still remind ourselves, a lot of this is up on top, and if it does sit up on top of the canyon in rain, and I guess I don't want to mislead people thinking maybe it's the top of the switchbacks or something. We're not talking about that. The fire burned on the west side of 89A headed north, on the west side, up on top of that hill. So it's on top of that hill. Correct. And all those little canyons that come off that hill.
Yeah, West Fork, pretty much everything feeds into west from that whole 21,000 acres for the most part. Someone was quoted as saying, how much of that drains into West Fork? And they paused shortly and said 100%. Oh, wow. So if it's a very large amount of it goes into West Fork, which then does feed into Oak Creek. So that everything does feed into that eventually, and that's one of our concerns. One of the interesting things was, on Friday we had our rain, and we had about 0.9 of an inch, 0.88 I think it was officially or something like that, but it happened over a longer period of time and nothing happened. On Sunday we had less of a rain, I believe 0.65 or something like that, over a shorter duration, and it caused some issues. So that's why I said that game without the rules, so it's not how much did it rain, it's how fast did it rain, and where did it actually rain?
Right.
How did, so.
That makes sense though.
Yeah, it makes sense. So the preparation part is extremely difficult, and the thought is, if you look at it, that looks pretty good here, and that may be the case in some cases where you happen to be standing, but you can't see up top like you mentioned, and you don't know what could be happening, let's say in West Fork. And we know back many years ago there was a number of fatalities up in Page in Antelope Canyon, if you remember. Yes. So it actually rained 14 miles away, and a few hours later that came through that canyon and killed, I believe it was 8 or so tourists, hikers that were there, and they were nowhere near the burn area or the rain area. The event was 14 miles away, sunny and beautiful where they were at. Right. So very.
And that's the difficult thing, I think, to kind of relay to people too. We have to take our first break.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, Sedona Fire Chief Chris Casey in studio today. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
doing, son?
Last summer, my new dad took me on vacation. First, we went deep sea fishing.
Wow! I'm so proud of you, son.
And then we went on Thunder Shark. That was awesome! Let's go again. 3 times. I gotta say, it was pretty cool.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Oh, not again.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. You can't control where it will land, only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how to protect your community from wildfires.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. You can't control where it will land, only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how to protect your community from wildfires.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
Welcome back to Countywide. Good to have you along. Sedona Fire Chief Chris Kazian in studio today. We're talking about the slide fire and kind of the preparations that have taken place since the slide fire in preparation for, we were just talking off camera, the monsoon. We saw the Schultz fire. We saw that happen where the fire was put out, but then still years now, years later, we're still dealing with infrastructure damaged, roads damaged, waterways damaged up there in the Flagstaff area. And then you mentioned the Gladiator fire, Yarnell Dosey fire. We're still watching those if you know, big storms hit those areas. Right. So it's not the fire really we got to watch out for. I mean, we get those put out, but then there's just, you know, the monsoon can be so devastating up there. A lot of information, a lot of preparation in the canyon. Tell us a little bit more about some of the preparation that was done up in the canyon.
So Paul, you mentioned this weekend driving through the canyon. We took the 4th of July weekend and all the travelers that would be traveling. We thought it'd be a great opportunity to help provide that information with a captured audience, so to speak, as they were coming through. And so we handed out a lot of information just to get people aware of what's going on. So you were handed information about the closure of the forest, and so the forest is closed from Huckabee Trail, which actually starts at Schnebley Road, all the way through like Midgley Bridge area, Grasshopper, and it goes all the way up to the switchback. So there's no recreation in the Oak Creek Canyon and any of the U.S. Forest Service.
Yeah, there were barricades literally at every single possible pull-off you could go to. There were signs.
So because of the fire and the post-fire conditions, the Forest Service realizes the danger of putting people in, and that just creates, duplicates the problem and multiplies it out for us. If there are people recreating there and we have an incident, the evacuation, the accountability, all those type of things. So the Forest Service took the approach that this is a pretty serious thing, and have closed the forest at this point till further notice. And there's no open date planned at this point. It's just when things get to be comfortable in what's happening. Then we also provided information to you and everyone else that passed through the canyon on flood preparation and evacuation planning and just being ready type of stuff. So we want to get as much information out there to everyone so they can be prepared. The interesting thing is that it's not just, if we get one big monsoon, then it'll all be over. And it's really, we're at a 3 to 5 year plan that we're looking at. So our planning, we had a meeting yesterday with all the county officials and so the Coconino County Search and Rescue and the Coconino County and the sheriff himself and emergency management and fire district and ADOT and Arizona Department of Emergency Management and state parks, and everyone was there. And we've the county's engaged in a plan. They're getting a plan written by some professionals to help us be our playbook Public for the next 3 to 5 years to have all the parts and pieces put together, because it's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of things that could or might happen. And
tons of variables. There's got to be tons of variables.
Tons of variables. So we're looking forward to that plan that we'll see here in the next couple of days. Will be put out, and then it'll be able to be used and taken care of in our problems. But the preparation, I got to tell you, I've been to more meetings in the last 3 weeks. When the fire happened, someone said, "Boy, Chief, you're going to be really busy now." And I thought, well, maybe a media guy will show up and want to interview me and want to do this type of stuff. And that was nothing. It's been meeting and planning and preparation and meeting and planning and preparation, and then altering the plan and things like that. And so one specific thing we're doing is the closures over the weekend. We closed the canyon to everybody. Now we actually decided yesterday, after a couple of times and seeing what it's doing, is that we're going to allow residents and employees and residents, employees, and business owners into the canyon during those closures. We're not letting the general public or any guests of any of the resorts in that are outside the closed area. If they're in there, that's fine, but they're not going to let them in until the warning is over. So
now, if you didn't do this, we'd be on the other spectrum of this, where, well, why didn't you close that? People died. Homes were destroyed.
Well, you heard that, Paul, at the beginning of when the fire started. Why was the forest closed? Everyone knew how dangerous it was, how dry it was. So it's exactly what you said. And so we have to take precautions as best we can. We have to realize that we are responsible for providing safety to people, and we can only do so much. And this is what we've decided to start with, and we're doing. And then we'll moderate that as we see and learn what the burn area does. The Weather Service has a warning system that's in place. When we have a 1/4 inch of rain over 15 minutes over certain rain gauges that they have, I believe there's 9 of them. If one of those activates, that's what triggers the warning for a flash flood warning.
Okay, gotcha.
That means it's immediate hazard to life and health. And so we need to react in that way. Maybe over time we'll find out what's happening and we could alter that. But the bearer team and the professionals have determined that's what the trigger point is, and that's what we're going to use until we see how it goes. Over the weekend, we did have a mudslide and some rock slides that occurred on Sunday afternoon.
Where at in the canyon was that?
Up in the switchbacks, I believe about 390, 391 mile marker in that area. But really, throughout the switchbacks, there were a couple rock slides, and the actual mudslide was kind of in one of the last turn going up, or the first one kind of coming down.
Gotcha.
Big hairpin turn right there. And so, we definitely saw some, things that the switchbacks are always a little unpredictable anyway, with rain, rock falls. Yeah. So that's kind of normal, but this did have a fairly good mudslide that did come out of there, and we got a car it's been stuck in there, and no one was injured or anything of that nature. But our initial reports were there was a car over the edge, and so it was a little dicey to begin with, and rock-sized boulders.
Pins and needles in there right now, you think, in the canyon?
A
little bit.
I would say a little bit for some, and for others, there's a lot of thought that, hey,
or just awareness.
Awareness is critical.
Right.
I think some feel that we've done this before. We've had monsoons before. What's new? And what's new is there's 21,000 acres of burned area above you. That's really concerning for us. And so we don't know how it's going to react. No one knows, because we haven't had that type of environment above everyone before. So so we have to be careful and use common sense. And in today's world, like you said, we got to err on the side of safety, and so that's what we're doing.
All right, let's take our second break.
Excellent.
Okay. Sedona Fire Chief Chris Casey in studio today. We're talking about the slide fire and sort of the preparations being made just in case a big monsoon storm hits the area. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Checking your fantasy league?
Nah, just my 401k statement.
I can't seem to save anything.
I got a pizza for a Todd.
Hey, can somebody spot me?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. Since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Separate raw meats from other foods by using different cutting boards. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Let's switch to Energy Star light bulbs and stop burning through cash. Saving energy saves you money.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a few minutes left of the program. Anybody going to be in Oak Creek Canyon, we should know now that we can't stop unless you've got business in the canyon or you're visiting family or friends in the canyon. But there's no reason to go to the canyon with an ice chest, a fishing pole, and hang out and recreate. You just can't do that right now.
Really can't do that on the Forest Service property at all, and certainly want to be careful. We have the sirens that will activate if if we do have a warning. The sirens will activate. That's your first outdoor warning sign to get out, seek higher ground type of thing. Exactly.
Ready, set, go. We want to make sure everybody's ready, even if we don't live in Oak Creek Canyon. Everybody should know how to do this. What's Ready, Set, Go? Ready, Set, Go is a website. It's actually a wildland website, but if you Google Ready, Set, Go, you'll find it. It should be the first thing that pops up on your Google search, and then it's just some principles. So Ready is really your personal accountability. So things like having a flashlight, having some food, water. If you do get in your house for a couple of days without being able to get out or whatever, to be prepared. So kind of having your car on more than half a tank of gas because you might get stuck somewhere, type of thing in the winter or whatever. So it's just that personal responsibility to be prepared. Set is the situational awareness piece. So just knowing what's the weather going to be doing today, what are you expecting here, where's your house located, or wherever you're at in relationship to concerning areas and things like that in this flood planning piece. And then go means act early. And so, we don't have a lot of time in this situation. So we want to make sure you're prepared, you have the plan, and now execute the plan and know what everyone's going to do so that there's not a, what's the plan again? What am I supposed to do? Right. Yeah. Go over it a few times.
Yeah. What's the number for 911?
Gosh, it's so funny. I've been hearing that for all my life, too, especially the go part. The plan would be like you have a fire in your house. Everybody should have an exit route. Where do we meet outside? Code Red, that has been pushed more this year than I think I've ever heard it before. Yeah. But Code Red has been really huge this year.
Code Red's really important. If you live in Yavapai or in Coconino, they both have Code Red activations and warning. It's very important. One of the pieces is that they only activate the weather advisory piece that's in Coconino County. I'm not sure in Yavapai, but in Coconino County, if they have this weather component activated, it only notifies you if you're in an area that has a warning. Right. And so if you have signed up and you say, well, I was down in Prescott for the day, I didn't get the warning. If you weren't in the area, it doesn't want to overwarn you. And so it just gets you when you're identified as being in that area through your smartphone technology.
Really? Okay.
If it's calling your smartphone. If it's calling your landline, it'll call you because your landline's always in the box they draw or whatever. So very important way to notify people of a situation going on. And right now we're talking wildfires, we're talking monsoons, but it could be a boil water order that gets put out that way. It could be an Amber Alert. It could be all those type of things. It's just a great system that is locally controlled to be able to get information in a geographic area. They kind of draw the boxes on where they want the information to go. The entire county, this subdivision, this whatever, and it's really important to make sure you sign up for that.
All right, we're out of time. Chief Gadsden, very nice to meet you. Thanks for coming to the studio. All right, that's today's Countywide. I'm Paul David. We will talk to you again next time.